Alright, let's make another vlog. Corey Wayne Anderson here with New Thought Society. Now, we were getting our workout in, and simultaneously we were doing our summary. We were taking notes of a message of New Thought, The Message of New Thought by Abel Allen. Now, New Thought is a very, very complex subject. And our goal is obviously to simplify it. But I was going over, because Abel Allen explains New Thought as an expression, right? It is defined by what is new. It is defined by progress. Ultimately, he's defining it as a mindset that, hey, we have a, because we know today we have a chemical known as dopamine, right? And dopamine is responsible for novelty, our desire for novelty, our desire for new things. Now, dopamine pushes us to satisfaction. Dopamine pushes us to creating things, to doing things that bring personal satisfaction. Because when we do something that's new, it could be exciting, it could be something, because it's different, it's new, it's novelty. And novelty is a part of who we are. Finding newness, finding new things, and progressing as a race is important to us, and it's in our DNA to do that. Now, a part of what Abel Allen is explaining is that new thought cannot be defined as a system of thought. It cannot be put into a system of thought. But that isn't true, right? Humans, we need systems. We need to think from a system. For example, for health, we know that everything that we have, can attain, and can be is based upon consciousness itself. We have to become conscious of how to do it first in order for its manifestation to follow. Like fitness, for example, there are certain specific principles that you need to follow in order to achieve the health that you want. Same thing with business. In order to be successful in business, you need to follow a system. And with that being said, we know Judge Troward, a New Thought author, he says that we cannot get beyond the law of cause and effect. That cause and effect is a legitimate universal law. It's fixed. It's a principle. It wasn't set by us. It is something that was set by infinite intelligence itself, the universal mind, so to speak. And this law governs our lives. So when Abel Allen is defining New Thought, he's defining only a part of it. And with that being said, Horatio Dresser, because we're going over a history of New Thought, right? We're going to do chapter 7 tonight before we go to bed. Now, in a history of New Thought, Mr. Dresser talks about parts of the movement, explain it, New Thought itself, as an expression. And that part of the movement is what Abel Allen is a part of. He's explaining it as an expression. But then Horatio Dresser explains it as something else, that it is a society. There's there's a lot to put together and a lot to figure out. He explains as a society. And Mr. Dresser was connected to Quimby himself, and a lot of this movement was based around the principles of what Quimby found to be true about the mind, how the human mind works, how psychological principles work. Because there are even psychological laws that we abide by. There are psychological laws that govern us. Like we're talking about consciousness. We are consciousness expressing ourselves through this body, through this thing known as man. And consciousness itself is a very complex subject. There is a lot to go through, a lot of information to simplify, because my goal with New Thought Society is to take New Thought from the very beginning through all the phases it went through to what it is today. So I was going over this summary that I was putting together for um, the commentary for chapter 1 of the Message of New Thought, right? New Thought Defined, how Abel Allen defines it. As I was going over it, it's like, okay, well, Mr. Allen is right in regards to, hey, yeah, the law of growth, for example. The law of growth is a natural law. We grow, we expand, it's just a law, right? Change is a natural law of the universe. Change happens no matter what. In the law, how he's defining new thought is in regards only to change, development, expansion. But we know these other laws are in play too, these other laws that are fixed. So, like I said, we do need a system. We need a system to think by. But it's like, okay, how can we take what Abel Allen is telling us for what new thought is and how he's defining it as progress, for continuously growing, and how we can't be defined by a system because the mind is constantly expanding. Because his definition of a system is something that is fixed, something that will eventually cease to grow, because man's mind is designed itself to grow, to expand, which he is right about in that extent. But we can't forget these other laws, right? The law of attraction, the law of cause and effect, the law of correspondence, the law of being. All these are natural laws that were set by something higher than ourselves. So it's okay. We do still need to systemize our thought. We need to systemize our thought around the principles and wisdom of infinite intelligence itself, of God itself. Because God created our universe, his universe. Everything in existence was created through wisdom. King Solomon tells us that in Proverbs, that wisdom was the thing that was present with God at the beginning. It's always been in existence along with, at the right hand of God, at the side of God. And God used wisdom to create everything in existence. So it's okay, systemizing our mind around these natural universal principles, right? These principles that God set forth before us, while also applying what Abel Allen is saying in his definition of what new thought is, as a mind for progress, a mind that is continuously growing. Because he is right about that part, but he is not right about us not systemizing our mind, because we do need to systemize our thinking. We need to have a foundation of thought so we can manage our lives, so we can manage ourselves. And it's a very, very complex ideology, and I see the purpose in it. I see the meaning behind it. I see the bigger picture behind it. Just, it is a phase of, right, taking the important parts of what these authors are telling us from whatever part of the movement they were involved in and bringing it to where we're at today. Because ultimately where we're at today is going to involve a lot of quantum physics too, a lot of mental science, mind science, the latest mind science. And you know what? I was in the middle of a workout. I was comparing and doing a comparison and what do they call it? Compare and contrast between what Abel Allen is saying, between what Charles Haanel talks about and what he says in Master Key System, between what Horatio Dresser is saying in A History of the New Thought Movement. And I know we're still in the beginning of everything that we're doing too, because we still have The True Message of New Thought to go through by Julius Dresser. We have a ton to go through. Right, eventually we'll be breaking down psycho-cybernetics. Eventually we'll be breaking down right, the Sermon on the Mount by Emmett Fox. Eventually we'll be breaking down Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Eventually we'll be breaking down, right, these authors like William Walker Atkinson. He was part of the movement. Wallace D. Wattles was part of the movement. And as I've said before, the Quimby manuscripts, these manuscripts will eventually be going through, because everything of what New Thought revolved around the manuscripts of Phineas Parkhurst Quimby. And on top of all of this, there are parts of the movement that attach these teachings to spirituality, parts of these movements that attach these teachings to psychology, parts of the movement that focus on natural and universal laws, right? Like the ultimate bigger picture, the mastermind of New Thought itself has been segregated and divided between authors and their understanding of what the movement is and what it comprised of. So I'm looking at it right now like, gosh damn, right? Like I'm standing in the face of a giant that needs to be organized and simplified, right? Because it has to be simple. I have to take all of this, put the puzzle pieces together, then organize information to explain what this picture means, what it stands for, and why it's important for you to have. New Thought is very important to have. Not only it's an ideal, it's an ideology. And then another thing on top of that, it's being explained as a philosophy, while others are explaining it as a religion. Well, Abel Allen, he talks about it being a mental attitude. He mentions things as an attitude of mind, right? And it's like, holy crap, how are we going to take this puzzle? How are we going to put this puzzle together and make it into one big picture, one grand picture, and put it into a program ourselves eventually that will not only teach the ideology, but also the principles behind what it teaches. Because regardless of all the different ways it's explained, the fundamental basis of what New Thought is that, hey, we live in a universe that is governed by an infinite intelligence. This infinite intelligence is all around us. It's within us, and it's within everything. That all matter itself has been created by this higher intelligence, this spiritual, conscious living essence, which we know as God. Right? Ultimately, all this is explaining this presence of this infinite mind, and that this mind is within us. For all of everything that we are, right? This human being, I'm made out of these cells. These cells of which I'm made of is composed of chemicals. These chemicals of which those cells are made of are composed of molecules. And then it goes from the molecule down to the atom, and then down to the atom to subatomic particles. And then back behind those subatomic particles is this infinite intelligence, this conscious essence, which quantum physics explains today as the quantum field, right? We live in this field of intelligent energy, and it is the foundation of everything in existence, and we are connected to this field. We're connected to this intelligence. Not only are we connected to this intelligence, we are this intelligence expressing itself through this flesh, through this human, right? That's like the basic basis of what this movement teaches. Now it goes from, okay, we know we are a part of this infinite mind and it is within us, and we could connect to it and express it through our thought process, which is a whole nother range of exactly how we're going to break this information down, because we know thought is creative. Thought is a creative force, and we could think like God by understanding God's principles, by understanding God's wisdom. Again, like King Solomon tells us, that the wisdom of God is in wisdom itself is more precious than anything in this world. It's more precious than any type of wealth you can have. It's more precious than anything you could have. For wisdom itself, if you want to attain wealth, you can have wealth through wisdom, right? Because wealth itself is governed by higher laws, higher principles. We know the cause of money is what? Service. So if you want to make money, you have to be of service to mankind. So you focus on the cause of what brings money, not the money itself. Focus on the thing that will bring the money. That's what you need to bring your thoughts to, right? How can I serve my community? How can I serve my people? How can I be of service to my society? And that service must be a need. It must be something that is needed for people, right? For people to use. Why do people need it? What is it going to do for them? How is it going to fulfill something in their lives, right? That's the idea that you need to be thinking around. And you could do this in the form of a product, right? It can be a tangible product. You could bring and create a tangible product and sell it to your people, sell it to your community, and that's how you could bring the money to you. Now, you could be of service in an ideology, which is what we're doing here, right? We're bringing an ideal to life, back to life, in congruence to where we are today, because ultimately everything is dependent upon a mindset. Even that money you're going to make and that service you're going to provide is dependent upon your mindset as a human being, right? So for us, we're bringing something to people that is intangible. Now, again, with it being a philosophy, a religion, science, right? A lot of it has science involved. All of that has its center back in how we are thinking and what we understand to be true about this universe of which we live in. Now, as I was working out, like I said, I just needed to get on camera and talk about this thing I'm currently experiencing when it comes to building the society myself, because there is a lot of work to be done and a lot of organizing and simplifying something that's so complex. But you know what? I know I can do it because I know the power of the human brain, right? In Master Key System, Charles Haanel explains how the brain is the most wonderful piece of mechanism that has ever been created in the universe. That it is through the brain and our ability to create new neural pathways that we become what we need to become to manifest that thing that we want to manifest. Now, I know as a subject that has been so scattered over just throughout different parts of the movement, something that's been scattered and defined in so many different ways, I know that as I keep pushing along and keep studying and keep reading and keep doing what I need to do, ultimately that bigger picture will appear, and my brain will manifest the necessary brain cells to bring that bigger picture together, because that's just who we are. That's the power we have as humans. Now, on psycho-cybernetics, now I'll end with this because I don't want to wait too long, because we still have some sets to do, but we're finishing up with some biceps today, at least right now anyway. Now, in Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. Maxwell Maltz was he was a doctor, he was a surgeon, he was a what do you call it? Is it a cosmetic surgeon? He did a facelifts. He did he helped. I believe it's a cosmetic surgeon that he was. But anyway, through his process of being the surgeon, he talked about how he's seen the difference in his patient's mental attitude. Like he himself talks about the mental attitude and how the attitude of the patient changed after they've gone through the surgery. Now, he said the majority of them completely changed as an individual, and he started to learn about self-image psychology. He teaches self-image psychology, that the most important part is how a person sees themselves, because he had other patients that they didn't change at all. They didn't think that their facial change made a difference. They didn't feel that it changed themselves, while others felt like an entirely new person. So we found that regardless of what happened on the outside or the facial feature of the individual, the results are mainly based in their psychological change, right? What they think about it, how they are perceiving it. And again, in Psycho-Cybernetics, he talks about the reason he named his book Psycho-Cybernetics, because he learned that psychologically man's mind works like a cybernetic system. It's a goal-striving system. Now, when a man has a goal, this goal that he has is put upon this mind. Okay, like we're learning about the divisions between the conscious and the subconscious mind, right? Our conscious mind being able to create mental pictures, being able to think, being able to choose the goals, choosing the things that it wants, right? We as humans, when it comes to manifesting something, we need to know exactly what it is that we want to manifest so we can move in that direction. And in Master Key System, Mr. Hanel is explaining that the subconscious mind is the mind of the universe that exists within us, and it has infinite potential, infinite potentiality. And as we're going through part 2, he says that our degree to depend more on the subconscious mind is what's really going to enable us to achieve the things that we want. So in Psycho-Cybernetics, this goal-striving machinery that we have, he says it's going to be the brain and nervous system, which is the conscious mind, and utilization of the subconscious mind. And the example he gives, let's say you have your cybernetic system, the example of a missile, right? You have your missile. The missile is there to do what you need that missile to do. But obviously that missile needs a target, right? The subconscious mind, you could say, is the missile, while the conscious mind being the part of you which sets the target. Because you could have this, if you shoot this missile off with no destination, it's just going to go wherever, right? You need to have a destination. And missiles that have a target, they will adjust themselves accordingly to hit that target. Same thing with the human mind. Once the mind has a target, it's going to adjust itself accordingly in order to reach that target, in order to reach that goal. Now that's just in Psycho-Cybernetics itself, and even Maxwell Maltz explains that you need to have the ideal, right? You need to have the mental picture. You need to have the vision of what it is that you want. You need to think about this vision. You need to think about this goal. Because unless you know what you want, unless you know the target you are shooting for, you're never going to reach the target. Now, there are other explanations of this conscious mind being the captain of the ship. Being the captain, while the subconscious mind is the ship. This subconscious mind, this ship, is ready to take you wherever it is that you want to go, wherever it is that you need to go. While the captain needs to know where it is that he's going, right? If you don't know where you're going, you could end up on the rocks. You could end up on shore. You could end up where you don't want to be, right? Which is why it's very important for us to know what it is that we want. Now, I bring all this up, and I'm talking and explaining this because I'm using it for me, right? I know eventually, as I continue to do this, I will be able to see the big picture of what New Thought what New Thought is as a whole, right? Because I need to, as the advocate for New Thought, in pushing this society forward and creating a community around it, I need to know the biggest picture, the big picture. And I need to be able to take everything and funnel it into a simplified, easy to understand form. Because right now I'm looking at it like, gosh damn, there is a lot of putting together, dude. There is a lot of things to put together in order to make this society a success. And, I was also pondering the reason why New Thought is not really known today, because it is a movement that is mainly in books, right? This movement started over 100 years ago. It originated in America. And back when people actually read and wrote. I'm not saying people don't read or write today. I mean, I do, right? There are people that do. But ultimately, times have changed. Things have changed. But knowing that this community, like New Thought as a whole, like, it needs to be defined in a system. It needs to have a doctrine. It needs to have something that systemizes exactly what it is. And that system, from what I'm looking at, it's going to be based in wisdom. It's going to be based in universal law, right? Because anything that isn't based in the principles of God and in the Word of God is just man's opinion, right? We know opinions aren't exactly true. Opinions are just opinions. Facts are facts. Opinions are opinions. Now we need to bring our mind in subjection to what is factually true, what has been shown to be set by something greater than ourselves, something that is more than what we are. Because anything other than that is just going to be opinion. So it's like, okay, as I've already said, and I'll say it again, systemizing our society around a thought process that is systemized in everything that we know as God, everything we know as God's wisdom, and to think from God's thought process. Because we are governed and ordained by a higher law. Right? It is the nature, even consciousness itself, it is the nature of consciousness to embody that which it thinks about. It's just how it is. Regardless of what we believe, regardless of what or how we think, we are going to express that thought in form. That is a law that is set by something higher than us. So yeah, very interesting. I'm going to finish my workout. We got to keep getting these biceps going. Now, I know I'm not the most fit or in shape individual. I'm like 145, 147, maybe around 150 at the moment. 5'8", whatever. But doesn't mean we can't keep working towards our fitness goals and this higher mindset that we know we need to break down. But anyway, we are going to simplify this extremely complex subject and make it easy for you to understand. Because like I said, I do see the purpose in this, and I believe this is something that everyone should at least be aware of. That, hey, something like this is out there, and with the right understanding, it'll give you the power and the ability to get the things that you want. Because these laws work in accordance to where we are in consciousness and how we think. If you made it to the end of this video, thanks for watching. Let's end it right here, because it's like 2 in the morning.